Continue now at the top of Daf Pevav Amud Beis in Meseches Eruvin. This is Eruvin Daf 86b. The Gemara here is in the middle of asking a question on Rav Yehuda. Again, Rav Yehuda had said that if you have a bore between two chatzeros, you need to really have some kind of mechitza, even dipping into the water, in order to create a separation so that each chatzer can take from its half of the pit, can draw water from its half of the pit on Shabbos. So the Gemara here is now asking from a statement. First, the Gemara brought a statement of Rav Yehuda himself, who was talking about a churba, that you can have a crossbeam that's 4 tefachim wide, and you can carry under it in a churba. The edges of the crossbeam halachically come down like walls, and you can carry under the beam. And then Rav Nachman says, in the name of Rabbi Bar Avua, Kora Arba Materes B'mayim. Same thing is true in water. If you have a beam that's 4 tefachim wide, we view the edges as if they come down and they become halachic walls, and you're allowed to carry the water. You're allowed to use the water. Rashi explains, Materes B'mayim Bebor Shebein Beis Chatzer. It's exactly our case. You have a pit between two chatzeros, and a suna al rachva be'emtza abor lamala. You place this beam on its width over the bore, and it creates a mechitza over the bore. So that's what the basis of the Gemara's question. This is not the mechitza that Rav Yehuda was talking about before. Haka'azil delili dachisa. So first the Gemara asks, doesn't the pail itself just go to the other side? You're going to be filling up from water on the other side. Umaisi, you'll be bringing the water from there, which would certainly be a problem. To that the Gemara says, Kimlu l'Rabbanan de'ein deli mahalach yoser me'arba tfachim. The Rabbanan know that the pail will not go more than 4 tefachim. But the Gemara asks, Tachas Kora miyaha revi maya. Underneath the beam, isn't the water all mixed up? And Rashi says, for Rav Yehuda hefsek mechitza boy, didn't Rav Yehuda require a division of a mechitza? Here you don't have that. So the Gemara answers, Ela mishum dekal hu shekilu chachamim b'mayim. Rather, this statement from Rav Nachman in the name of Rabbi Bar Avua was a special leniency by water, and it does not follow Rav Yehuda. Rashi says, Elakalu shekilu chachamim b'mayim v'lesel Rav Yehuda. We do not hold of Rav Yehuda, elakid Rav Huna. We hold like the lenient opinion of Rav Huna, de Beis Hillel lamala mamish ka'amri. When Beis Hillel said that you put the mechitza above the pit, it really means above the pit. Doesn't mean that it goes and to the surface of the water, but it's at the very top of the pit. That's where your mechitza is, and that's good enough because we're lenient when it comes to water. Kedeba minei Rabbi Tavla may Rav, just like Rabbi Tavla asked Rav, mechitza teluya ma'u shetati or bechurba. If you have a mechitza that is hanging, does that work by a rune? Amar lei said to mein mechitza teluya materes ela b'mayim. It only works by water. Kalu shekilu chachamim b'mayim. This is a special leniency that we have by water. So the Gemara now continues at the 2 dots. Amar Rabbi Yehuda lote mechitza. Rabbi Yehuda was the most lenient opinion in the Mishnah. He said you could have the same regular mechitza you have to divide the 2 courtyards can also be used to divide the bore. It doesn't need to enter into the pit at all. Amar Rabba bar bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabba bar bar Chana said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yehuda b'shitas Rabbi Yossi Amra. Rabbi Yehuda over here is following the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, the Amar, who says mechitza teluya materes afilo b'yabosha. He allows a mechitza teluya even in dry area, and that's why he's so lenient here by the pit. Rashi says hilkach b'mayim nami ein sarach shetira hamechitza asuya b'shvil hamayim. It does not even need to appear that the mechitza is made for the water. Uvesoch ogne habor doesn't even need to be in the rim of the pit at all, because the mechitza teluya works even b'yabosha. That's nan, because we learned in a Mishnah. Now this Mishnah is actually a Mishnah in Sukkah. It says in terms of building a sukkah, it says hameshalshel defanos milmalo lamata. Let's say a person is building his walls from up above to down below. Bizman shekavos min aretz gimel tfachim psula. If the walls are 3 tfachim or more above the ground, they don't reach within 3 tfachim of the ground, it is pasul. Mimata lamala, if he's building his walls upward from the bottom up, im gavos yud tfachim ksheira. As long as they're 10 tfachim high, that is good enough. Rabbi Yossi says, Kashem shemil mata lamalo asara, just like if you're building it from the bottom up, it just needs to be 10 tefachim high, doesn't even need to reach the schach, the rest we imagine upward. Kach mil malo lamata asara. So too, if you build it from the top down, it just needs to be 10 tefachim, and we can just do mechitza teluya. That's exactly what Rabbi Yossi is saying, that mechitza teluya is working, in this case, not in Hilchas Shabbos, but it's working in dry land for Hilchas Sukkah. But the Gemara says not really a good comparison. You can't compare the halachas of Sukkah to the halachas of Eruvin. Veloi, it's not a good comparison. Lo Rav Yehuda savar like Rav Yossi, velo Rav Yossi savar like Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda does not hold like Rav Yossi. Rav Yossi does not hold like Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda lo savar like Rav Yossi. Adkan lo kam Rav Yehuda ela beiruvi chatzeres derabanan. Rav Yehuda is being so lenient over here because eruvi chatzeres is derabanan. Aval sukkah doraisa lo, but by sukkah midoraisa he would not agree with Rav Yossi. Velo Rav Yossi savar like Rav Yehuda, and Rav Yossi does not hold like Rav Yehuda either. Why? Because Adkan lo kam Rabbi Yossi ela b'sukkah d'isur asay. Sukkah involves, at most, it's an isur asay. There's a prohibition, a positive commandment. You have to build the sukkah. Isra Aseyu. Aval Shabbos, but when it comes to Shabbos, Isra Skilo, even though this is a Derabanan, but Shabbos itself is an Isra Skilo, so lo Amar. So he would not say when it comes to Shabbos, he wouldn't say you could be so lenient. And so now the Gemara asks if it's true that Rabbi Yossi's leniency applied only to Hilchas Sukkah, and he would not apply it in Hilchas Eruvin, V'im Tomar. So then you might ask, oh, so Maisa, Shenasa B'Tzipore, that story where they allowed a Mechitza Tluya and Tzipore, on Shabbos, al pi minasa, who was that allowed through? Lo al pi Rabbi Yossi, so the Gemara says it wasn't through Rabbi Yossi, el al pi Rabbi Shmuel, but Rabbi Yossi nasa. It was Rabbi Shmuel, the son of Rabbi Yossi, who allowed it. Rabbi Yossi had already died, and the story was as follows: D'chiyasar Rav Dimi Amar, because when Rav Dimi came, he said, Pamacha shachu v'lo heviu sefer Torah mi ba'od yom. One time they forgot to bring the sefer Torah before Shabbos. L'macher, the next day, Parsu Sadin al Amudim, they spread curtains on pillars, Ve'eviu Sefer Torah, and they brought the Sefer Torah. The case was that the Chatzar had no Eruv, so they made these curtains go directly from the house where the Sefer Torah was. They walked it through these mechitzos that they made through curtains to the shul. The Karubo, and they read from the Sefer Torah. Gemara says that can't exactly be the story. Parsul lechatchila mishari. You think they're allowed to put up the curtains on Shabbos? That would never be allowed. V'akol modim. But everybody agrees. Shein osin all arai b'Shabbos. You're not allowed to make an all arai lechatchila on Shabbos. There's a machlokas whether you can add on to an all arai. But everybody agrees you can't make an all arai on Shabbos. So rather change the story slightly. Elamatzo sadin and prusin al amudim. They found already there were curtains on the pillars. Ve'eviu sefer Torah v'karubo. And they brought a Sefer Torah and they read, and again, that's going to be a heter through Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, because Rabbi Yossi would not allow Mechitza Tluya on Shabbos. Amar Rabba says, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia Amru Davar Echad. Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia, they agree in the following manner. Rabbi Yehuda Hada Amran, Rabbi Yehuda we've already quoted, Rashi over here says, Amru Davar Echad Hekilu Harbe B'Mayim. Means to say, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia are very makel when it comes to water. Rabbi Yehuda is what we said in our Mishnah, that you could just have a mechitza above the pit, and then each side, the chutzar on each side of the pit can take the water. And Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia is as follows: Titznan, we learned in a Mishnah, and the Masoras Hashas changes it to the Tanya, we learned in a Brisa. Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia, Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia says, Gezuztra sheyesh bar ba'amos al arba'amos. Again, you have like a ledge that's sticking out above the water. It's 4 by 4 amos, and we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Pei Zayin Amud Aleph.